The light in the darkness. Captain Marcus Kane had seen many strange things during his 15 years aboard the deep space mining vessel Prometheus, but he had never seen a woman materialize from pure starlight in the middle of an asteroid field. The maintenance bay's emergency lights cast eerie shadows as he worked alone on the ship's failing gravity generator, his crew of 12 sleeping soundly in their quarters. The ship's artificial night cycle was in full swing, and the only sounds were the gentle hum of life support systems and the distant groaning of metal under stress from the asteroid field's gravitational pull. The light appeared first as a shimmer, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. Marcus paused in his work, wrenched halfway to a stubborn bolt, and watched as the shimmer intensified. The air itself seemed to bend and twist, forming a doorway of pure luminescence that hurt to look at directly. Then she stepped through, and Marcus forgot how to breathe. She was tall, perhaps 6 feet, with skin that seemed to catch and hold the light like polished silver. Her hair flowed like liquid mercury, and her eyes held the depth of nebulae. She wore what appeared to be armor, but it moved like fabric, shifting and adapting to her movements with an intelligence of its own. Most striking were her ears, elongated and pointed like the edge of a blade, marking her as decidedly not human. "Marcus, Kane of Terra," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. "I am Zylara of the Veteran Collective. I have traveled far to find you." Marcus set down his wrench carefully, his engineer's mind trying to process what he was seeing. He had always been a practical man, dealing in facts and figures, in the solid reality of machinery and physics. But here stood something that challenged everything he thought he knew about the universe. "I don't suppose this is some kind of corporate prank," he said, surprising himself with how steady his voice sounded. "New holographic technology, maybe? Though I have to say, the special effects budget must have been astronomical." Zylara tilted, her head studying him with those impossible eyes. "Your humor in the face of the unknown is noted. It is one of the reasons your species was chosen." "Chosen for what exactly?" Marcus asked, though part of him wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "To stand against the coming darkness," she replied. "Your people call it the HFY principle, though you don't realize it yet. Humanity has something the galaxy desperately needs." Marcus blinked. "The what principle?" "Human ingenuity, human stubbornness, the refusal to surrender even when logic dictates defeat." Zylara stepped closer, and Marcus could feel the energy radiating from her like warmth from a fire. "The Devourers are coming, Marcus Kane. They consume entire civilizations, leaving nothing but empty space behind. 12 star systems have fallen in the past solar cycle." The gravity of her words began to sink in, but Marcus found himself focusing on the practical details. It was how he dealt with overwhelming situations. Break them down into manageable pieces. "These Devourers, what are their capabilities? What kind of technology are we dealing with? And more importantly, why me? I'm just a mining ship captain with a crew of 12 and a ship that's held together with determination and spare parts." Zylara smiled, and it was like watching a sunrise. "That is exactly why, Marcus Kane. Your vessel may be small, but you have kept it running for 15 years in the harshest environment known to your species. You have improvised solutions where others would have given up. You have turned scrap metal into miracles." She gestured, and the air between them shimmered again, forming a 3-dimensional star map. Marcus could see the Milky Way galaxy spread out before him, with dark patches spreading like an infection across several spiral arms. "This is the current extent of Devourer conquest," Zylara explained. "They don't just destroy planets. They consume the very essence of space itself, leaving voids that cannot be traveled or inhabited. The greatest civilizations in the galaxy have fallen before them. The Veteran Collective has technology beyond your current understanding, but we lack something crucial." "Which is?" "The ability to fight dirty. Marcus couldn't help but laugh at that. Well, I hate to break it to you, but humans wrote the book on fighting dirty. We've been doing it since we figured out how to pick up rocks and throw them at each other. Precisely, Xylara said, her expression growing serious. The Devourers expect ordered battle formations, predictable tactics, honor-bound warfare. They do not expect humans. As if summoned by their conversation, an alarm began blaring throughout the ship. Marcus rushed to the nearest control panel, his fingers flying over the familiar controls. The scanner display showed something that made his blood run cold, a massive shape emerging from the asteroid field's shadow, easily 10 times the size of the Prometheus. "Is that what I think it is?" he asked. Xylara nodded grimly. "A Devourer scout ship. They have found us." Marcus looked at his small mining vessel, then at the alien woman who had just upended his entire understanding of the universe, then at the approaching threat that could probably vaporize his ship without breaking stride. Any reasonable person would have surrendered or fled. Instead, Marcus Kane grinned. "Well then," he said, reaching for the ship's intercom. "Time to wake up the crew and show these things what humans do best." Awakening the storm, the crew of the Prometheus had always been an unusual bunch, even by deep space mining standards. Marcus had handpicked each of them not just for their technical skills, but for their ability to think outside the box when everything went wrong, which, in deep space, was pretty much constantly. Chief Engineer Dmitry Volkov was the first to reach the maintenance bay, still pulling on his work coveralls. A bear of a man with hands like iron and a mind like a quantum computer, he took one look at Xylara and simply nodded as if alien visitors were a regular Tuesday occurrence. "So," Dmitry said in his thick Russian accent, "we are having cosmic visitors, da? And judging by Marcus's face, they are not bringing good news." "Define good," Marcus replied, pulling up the scanner display. "We've got a hostile alien ship bearing down on us, and our new friend here says there's an invasion force consuming the galaxy." Dr. Jennifer Nakamura, the ship's science officer and medic, arrived next. Unlike Dimitri's casual acceptance, she immediately began scanning Xylara with a handheld medical tricorder, her scientific curiosity overriding any sense of danger. "Fascinating," she muttered. "Her cellular structure is completely unlike anything in our databases, but somehow compatible with our atmospheric conditions. The energy readings are off the charts." "Doctor," Marcus interrupted gently, "we might want to save the first contact protocols for after we deal with the giant death ship." Navigation Officer Carlos Mendez and Communications Specialist Lisa Park arrived together, followed by the rest of the crew. Within minutes, the maintenance bay had become an impromptu war room, with 12 humans and 1 alien huddled around the scanner display. "Options?" Marcus asked. Because that's what good captains did. They asked their crew for solutions. "Well," said weapons specialist Jake Morrison, scratching his graying beard, "we've got mining charges, a couple of rail guns for asteroid clearing, and about as much chance of hurting that thing as a mosquito has of downing a helicopter." "Don't forget creativity," added Xylara. "Your species has a remarkable talent for improvisation under pressure." Lisa Park looked up from her communication console. "Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from that ship. It's strange. The signal pattern doesn't match any known communication protocol, but there's something familiar about the underlying structure. Can you decode it?" "Working on it. But, Captain, there's something else. I'm detecting at least 30 other ships throughout the asteroid field. They've been using the rocks for cover." The crew fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just facing one enemy ship. They were surrounded. Dmitry was the first to speak. "In Russia, we have saying, when bear is in trap, it does not lie down and wait for hunter. It becomes more dangerous." "The man has a point," said Marcus. "We might be outgunned, but we're not out of options. This asteroid field is our territory. We know every rock, every gravitational anomaly, every pocket of rare minerals." Dr. Nakamura looked up from her readings on Xylara. Captain, according to these scans, our guest's ship, I assume you have a ship, operates on principles that could revolutionize our understanding of physics. Zylara nodded. My vessel is cloaked nearby. It has weapons that could damage a Devourer scout, but not enough to face 30 of them. Then we don't face 30 of them, Marcus said, a plan beginning to form in his mind. Jake, what's the yield on our biggest mining charges? Enough to crack a small asteroid. Why? Because we're going to give these Devourers a lesson in human ingenuity. Marcus turned to the crew. Lisa, I need you to locate the largest concentration of heavy metals in this field. Carlos, plot a course that takes us through the densest part of the asteroid belt. Dmitri, I need you to rig our mining charges for remote detonation. But we're not going to do that, are we, Captain? Jake asked, his expression brightening as he began to understand. Not even close, Marcus confirmed. We're going to do what humans have always done when faced with a superior enemy. We're going to cheat. The next few minutes were a flurry of activity as the crew prepared their unconventional battle plan. The Prometheus might have been a mining ship, but it was crewed by humans, and humans had been turning disadvantages into advantages since they first learned to use tools. As they worked, Zylara watched with growing amazement. She had studied human behavior for years, but seeing it in action was something entirely different. Where other species would have despaired or tried to negotiate, these 12 humans were actively planning to take on a superior force using nothing but mining, equipment, and sheer audacity. Your people, she said to Marcus as he coordinated the preparations. They are remarkable. We're stubborn, Marcus replied. It's gotten us into trouble before, but it's also gotten us out of it. The scanner showed the Devourer ships beginning to move, their formation tightening as they prepared for what they undoubtedly expected to be a quick and easy victory. They were about to learn why that was a mistake. All hands, Marcus announced over the intercom. Prepare for Operation Asteroid Storm. And remember, today we show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate the human spirit. The art of impossible warfare. The Prometheus moved through the asteroid field like a ghost, using gravitational pockets and mineral formations to mask its approach. Marcus had spent 15 years learning every trick the belt had to offer, and now he was going to use that knowledge to even odds that should have been impossible to overcome. Distance to primary target? He asked. 2,000 kilometers and closing, Carlos reported from navigation. The lead Devourer ship is maintaining position at the field's edge, probably waiting for us to make a run for open space. They're in for a disappointment, Dmitri muttered, his fingers dancing over. The engineering controls. Mining charges are rigged and ready. I have created what you might call domino effect through asteroid cluster 77 Alpha. Dr. Nakamura looked up from her workstation, where she'd been analyzing the energy readings from the Devourer ships. Captain, I'm detecting something interesting. Their shields appear to be calibrated for energy weapons and traditional projectiles, but they're showing minimal protection against gravitational anomalies. Meaning? Meaning they're not expecting us to weaponize the asteroids themselves. Zylara, who had been quietly observing the crew's preparations, stepped forward. This is unprecedented, she said. In all the battles against the Devourers, no one has attempted to use environmental factors as primary weapons. That's because most civilizations probably fight fair, Jake observed, making final adjustments to the jury-rigged targeting system he'd cobbled together from mining equipment. Humans gave up on fair fights sometime around the invention of the slingshot. Lisa Park's voice crackled over the comm system. Captain, I've been monitoring Devourer communications. Their language is complex, but I'm picking up what sounds like confusion. They're having trouble categorizing our ship. Good, Marcus said. Confusion leads to mistakes. Everyone ready? The bridge fell silent except for the hum of systems and the distant rumble of the ship's engines. Through the viewports, the asteroid field stretched out around them, a maze of rock and ice that had been their workplace for years and was now about to become their battlefield. "Initiating Phase 1, Marcus announced. The Prometheus suddenly accelerated, shooting out from behind a large asteroid directly toward the Devourer formation. The enemy ships immediately began to converge, their weapons charging with an ominous purple glow. "They're taking the bait," Carlos reported. "All 30 ships are moving to intercept." "Wait for it," Marcus said, watching the tactical display as the Devourer ships entered the carefully prepared kill zone. "Wait for it." The first Devourer ship fired, its energy beams slicing through space where the Prometheus had been a split second before. But Marcus had already thrown the ship into a tight spiral around a massive asteroid, using its gravity well to slingshot toward the next phase of their plan. "Now, Dmitri." The first series of mining charges detonated simultaneously, but not on the Devourer ships. Instead, they struck key stress points on a cluster of asteroids, causing a cascade failure that sent hundreds of tons of rock hurtling through space in a carefully calculated pattern. The Devourer ships found themselves suddenly navigating a storm of debris moving at thousands of kilometers per hour. Their shields, designed to repel energy weapons, were overwhelmed by the sheer kinetic force of the asteroid fragments. 3 enemy ships showing damage, Jake reported with satisfaction. Their shields are flickering. But the Devourers were quick to adapt, beginning to target the asteroids themselves to clear their path. That's when Marcus initiated Phase 2. "Lisa, activate the comm jammers. Full spectrum. Communication jammers online. They won't be able to coordinate." The Prometheus dove deeper into the asteroid field, with Xylara's cloaked ship following invisibly. Behind, the Devourer formation began to fragment as individual ships lost contact with their commanders, each one forced to make independent decisions about how to navigate the chaotic battlefield. "This is where human psychology comes in handy," Dr. Nakamura observed. "Most species would retreat and regroup when faced with unexpected tactics, but humans would get angry and pursue." "Are the Devourers human?" Marcus asked. "No, but they're aggressive predators. They should react similarly." She was right. Instead of withdrawing, the Devourer ships pressed their attack, following the Prometheus deeper into the asteroid field where their superior numbers became a liability rather than an advantage. "Phase 3, Marcus announced. Dmitri triggered. The second wave of mining charges, but these weren't aimed at asteroids. Instead, they detonated against the field's largest deposits of rare earth metals, creating electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the Devourer ship's sophisticated targeting systems. Suddenly, the hunters became the hunted. The Prometheus, with its hardened mining equipment and manual backup systems, continued to function perfectly while the Devourer ship struggled with system failures. "Now they know how it feels," Jake said grimly, using the ship's modified railguns to target the disabled vessels. One by one, the Devourer ships fell victim to the 3-dimensional chess game Marcus had created within the asteroid field. Some were crushed by carefully aimed debris. Others suffered catastrophic system failures from the electromagnetic attacks. A few actually collided with each other in the chaos. When the dust settled, only 5 of the original 30 ships remained, and they were retreating as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. "Incredible," Xylara breathed. "You've just accomplished what entire battle fleets could not." Marcus slumped back in his captain's chair, suddenly feeling the weight of what they'd just done. "We got lucky, and we had home field advantage." "No," Xylara said firmly. "You had something the Devourers have never encountered before, human ingenuity coupled with absolute refusal to accept defeat." Dr. Nakamura was already running scans on the disabled Devourer ships. "Captain, we could learn a tremendous amount from their technology. This could change everything for Earth's defense capabilities." Marcus nodded, but his expression remained serious. "This was just a scouting force. If what Xylara says is true, there are much larger fleets out there. Then we'll teach them the same lesson, Dmitri said with characteristic confidence. Is not size of ship that matters, is size of crew's determination. As they surveyed the aftermath of their impossible victory, none of them realized that their battle had been broadcast across the galaxy through quantum communication networks. The name humanity was about to become known throughout the stars, not as a primitive species ripe for conquest, but as something far more dangerous. Survivors who refused to stay down. The Galactic Awakening. 3 days after the Battle of Asteroid Field Sigma-7, as it would later be known in galactic military academies, the Prometheus had become the most famous ship in the galaxy. The quantum communication networks that connected. Civilizations across the stars buzzed with recordings of 12 humans and 1 mining ship defeating 30 devourer vessels, using nothing but creativity and raw determination. Marcus stood in the ship's enlarged conference room, which Zylara had somehow expanded using her technology to accommodate the holographic representatives of 17 different alien civilizations. The walls shimmered with faces that ranged from familiar humanoid features to geometric crystalline forms that communicated through light patterns. The Altarian High Council wishes to understand, spoke a being that looked like a cross between a mantis and a scholar, how your primitive vessel achieved what our entire battle fleet could not. Marcus exchanged glances with his crew, who were arranged around the table like they were discussing the week's mining quotas, rather than galactic warfare. We didn't think of it as primitive versus advanced, he said. We thought of it as a problem that needed solving. Dr. Nakamura leaned forward, her scientific enthusiasm evident. From what we've learned studying the captured devourer technology, most galactic civilizations fight wars the same way. Massive ships, energy weapons, head-to-head confrontations. You've all been playing by the same rulebook for thousands of years. The Devourers have adapted to that rulebook, added Jake, cleaning his nails with a knife in a gesture that made several alien representatives visibly uncomfortable. They know how to counter every conventional tactic because they've seen them all before. A crystalline being pulsed with orange light, which Zylara translated as, "The Zarathi Collective asks why humans would choose to fight unconventionally." "Because conventional wasn't working," Lisa Park replied simply. "When something doesn't work, you try something else. It's not complicated." "But it is," interrupted a gaseous entity that spoke through atmospheric vibrations. "You risked everything, on unproven tactics with no guarantee of success. Most rational beings would have sought negotiation or retreat." Dmitri laughed, a sound that seemed to reverberate through the holographic connection. "Rational beings do not survive asteroid mining for 15 years. Rational beings do not leave comfortable planet to dig rocks in vacuum of space. We are not rational beings." The alien representatives fell silent as they processed this. Marcus could see the confusion in their various forms of expression. They were trying to categorize humanity within their understanding of galactic civilization, and failing. "You have to understand," Marcus said. "Humans have been fighting impossible odds since we climbed down from the trees. Every major advancement in our civilization came from someone looking at a problem everyone said couldn't be solved and saying, 'Watch me.'" Zylara stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "What Captain Kane is describing is the principle the Veteran Collective has studied for decades. Humans possess what we term adaptive combativeness, the ability to completely change tactical approaches based on immediate circumstances. Show them the mining footage," Dr. Nakamura suggested. Lisa Park brought up holographic recordings of the Prometheus at work over the past several years. The alien representatives watched as the small human crew repeatedly solved problems that should have been insurmountable, repairing critical systems during solar storms, extracting valuable minerals from unstable asteroids, jury-rigging solutions with equipment that was technically incompatible. Every day was a survival challenge, Carlos explained. We learned to see resources where others see obstacles. That asteroid field wasn't a battlefield to us. It was a workshop. The mantis-like Altarian spoke again. The High Council has analyzed your battle tactics. By all military doctrine, your actions should have resulted in catastrophic failure, yet you succeeded where we failed. That's because military doctrine assumes your enemy is following the same doctrine, Marcus replied. The Devourers have been winning by being unpredictable. So we decided to be more unpredictable than they were. A new holographic presence materialized, larger than the others, with an aura of authority that made even Zylara straighten her posture. The being appeared to be made of living starlight, constantly shifting between different configurations. I am the eternal navigator of the First Coalition, it spoke, its voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with the ship's hull itself. We have observed the Devourer expansion for 3,000 years. They consume not just matter and energy, but the very concepts of the civilizations they destroy. We believed them unstoppable. Nothing's unstoppable, Jake said flatly. Everything has a weakness. You just have to be willing to look for it in places nobody else thought to check. The Devourer's weakness, Dr. Nakamura added, is their success. They've become so accustomed to winning that they've stopped adapting. They expect resistance to follow certain patterns. And when it doesn't? Asked the crystalline Zarathi representative. They panic, Dimitri said with satisfaction. Like bear that finds mouse fighting back, confusion leads to mistakes. The Eternal Navigator's form pulsed thoughtfully. The First Coalition wishes to propose an alliance. Your species would serve as tactical advisors, helping us develop new approaches to Devourer warfare. Marcus looked around at his crew. They were miners, engineers, scientists, not soldiers. But they were also human, which apparently meant something special in the galactic community. We'll help, he said finally. But we do this our way. No massive battle fleets, no honorable single combat, no following ancient military traditions. We fight to win, using whatever tools we can find, even if those tools are considered ungentlemanly, asked the Altarian. Lisa Park grinned. Especially then. As the meeting concluded and the alien representatives signed off one by one, Zylara approached Marcus. You realize what you've started, she said. Humanity is about to become the most sought-after military ally in the galaxy. And the most feared enemy, Marcus added. Question is, are we ready for that responsibility? Through the viewport, Earth was visible as a small blue dot, unaware that 12 of its children had just changed the course of galactic history. The age of humanity's expansion into the stars was about to begin, and it would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. We'll figure it out, Dr. Nakamura said confidently. It's what humans do, the birth of an empire. 6 months after the first contact, Earth had become the unofficial headquarters of the most unusual military alliance in galactic history. The planet's orbital stations buzzed with activity as ships from dozens of civilizations arrived daily, their crews eager to learn what humans called asymmetric warfare and what the rest of the galaxy was beginning to call the human way. Admiral Patricia Reeves, formerly of Earth's Deep Space Exploration Division, stood in the command center of Station Unity, watching through the massive viewport as human and alien vessels conducted joint training exercises. The sight still amazed her. Earth ships that looked like flying scrapyards working alongside sleek alien craft that seemed more grown than built. Status report, she called out to the bustling command center. Sector 7 training exercises are ahead of schedule, reported Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez. The Altarian fleet has successfully implemented the asteroid slingshot maneuver, though they're still struggling with the timing. The Zarathi are having philosophical difficulties with the concept of using debris as weapons, added communications. Officer Torres. They keep asking if it's ethically sound to weaponize space rocks. Admiral Reeves smiled. The cultural exchanges had been as challenging as the military ones. Most galactic civilizations had evolved past what they considered primitive tactical thinking, developing elaborate codes of honor and conduct for warfare. Humans, having never had the luxury of such refinement, approached combat with a refreshing directness that their new allies found both shocking and effective. "Admiral," called out Sensor Specialist Park, Lisa's younger sister, recruited from Earth's expanding space program. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Prometheus." The main screen shimmered, revealing Marcus Kane aboard his ship, which now served as the mobile headquarters for joint human-alien tactical operations. Behind him, Admiral Reeves could see crew members from at least 5 different species working, alongside the original human miners. "Patricia," Marcus said, using the informal address they'd agreed upon, despite their respective ranks, "we've got a situation developing in the Kepler sector. Long-range sensors are detecting a massive devourer fleet, at least 300 ships, including several of their planet killers." The command center fell silent. Planet killers were devourer ships capable of consuming entire worlds, leaving nothing behind but empty space. The galaxy had never found an effective counter to them. "ETA?" Admiral Reeves asked. 72 hours to the Kepler colonies. The Altarian and Zarathi home fleets are moving to intercept, but based on previous engagements, they won't be enough." "Recommendations?" Marcus grinned, the expression that had become famous throughout the galaxy as the harbinger of impossible tactics. "We're going to need every human ship we can get, plus our most creative alien allies. It's time to field test the Terran Doctrine." The Terran Doctrine was humanity's gift to galactic warfare, a complete rejection of traditional battle tactics in favor of adaptability, improvisation, and the strategic use of environmental factors. It had been developed over months of joint training, combining human ingenuity with alien technology to create something entirely new. "All ships prepare for immediate deployment," Admiral Reeves ordered. "We're going to save the Kepler sector." The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as the hastily assembled fleet prepared for humanity's first major galactic conflict. Ships that had never been designed to work together were integrated into a command structure that existed more as suggestions than strict hierarchy. Dr. Nakamura, now serving as the fleet's chief science officer, had developed modifications that allowed human tactical concepts to be transmitted directly to alien vessels through quantum communication links. The result was a fleet that could coordinate in real time while maintaining the flexibility that made human tactics so effective. As the combined fleet entered hyperspace, Marcus found himself in command of the largest military force humanity had ever fielded. The irony wasn't lost on him. A year ago, he'd been a simple mining captain. Now he was leading an interstellar war fleet against enemies that had consumed civilizations far older than humanity. "Dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds, announced Navigation Officer Chen, who had joined the Prometheus crew from Earth's rapid expansion program. The Kepler sector appeared before them in all its threatened glory. 3 beautiful colonies orbiting a binary star system, with the massive devourer fleet bearing down on them like a plague of mechanical locusts. The enemy ships were unlike anything they'd faced before, each one easily 10 times the size of the largest human vessel. "My God," whispered communications specialist Torres. "There are so many of them." "Numbers don't matter," Marcus said calmly, watching as the tactical display updated with real-time intelligence. "Remember, we're not here to fight fair. We're here to win." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations. Humans had learned that the key to defeating the Devourers wasn't matching their firepower, but disrupting their coordination. Using a combination of quantum jammers, gravitational weapons, and tactics that violated every principle of honorable warfare, the combined fleet turned the Kepler system into a 3-dimensional maze of chaos. Human ships darted between the massive devourer vessels like angry wasps, targeting not their weapons or shields, but their communication arrays and sensor clusters. Alien vessels, freed from the constraints of traditional tactics, began implementing strategies that would have been considered barbaric just months before. The planet killers, designed to operate as the centerpieces of coordinated fleet actions, found themselves isolated and vulnerable when their support vessels were systematically disabled by tactics they couldn't counter. When the dust settled, the Devourer fleet was either destroyed or in full retreat, and the Kepler colonies were safe. More importantly, word of the victory spread throughout the galaxy within hours, carried by quantum communication networks that reached every civilized world. Humanity, the species that had been unknown a year before, had just proven that the seemingly unstoppable Devourers could be defeated. More victories followed, each one adding to the legend of human tactical superiority. Within 5 years, what had started as a small mining crew's impossible victory had grown into the Terran Empire, not built on conquest, but on the willing alliance of civilizations that had learned to fight the human way. Earth became the center of a galactic federation united not by force, but by the simple human principle that there was always another way to solve an impossible problem. And in the deep space mining sectors, old-timers would tell stories of Captain Marcus Kane and the Prometheus, whose crew had changed the galaxy by refusing to accept that some battles couldn't be won. The age of humanity among the stars had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.